Nice to meet you too. How you doing? How's the audio?
Good, good. I can hear everything great.
Awesome.
Cool.
So Julie gave me a little bit of information about your situation, but if you want to just give it to me, like I don't know anything, that'd be great.
Sure, sure. So, just some background. I adopted Monty like 7 months ago. Actually, really close to Frederick, like in Union Bridge. So
How old?
You
How
guys.
old did you get her at?
They said 4, but I think he's around 7 to 9. Like he's a little older.
Oh, okay.
Trying to think like what else I talked about. So he is like a total softie. Like complete like attention is his biggest reward next to food. I probably spoiled him just a little bit too much, but right at the beginning, like as a lot of owners do, like somewhat lack of structure, but he still had pretty good structure. So he's like really good in the crate, really good with like all the obedience. When I moved up to New Hampshire right at the pandemic, I noticed some of the more problem behaviors began to come out. So like, I wouldn't say reactivity, but just anxiousness or like insecurity. So like we're on a walk and we're passing a dog and he starts like whining, not barking, not growling, just whining, and then like wanting to go like pull me over there, but not lunging level, just like wanting to go over. He also had some resource guarding issues and just general like separation anxiety. So I was like, you know what, board and train might be a good thing, because at the same time all this stuff was happening, I was like, I have to study for my jury. So life happens.
Gotcha.
So he comes back from board and train, and in this time I've been just like doing my own research, just because I'm probably not the best educated dog owner if I'm
good for you.
Thanks. So that's how I discovered y'all, and then I'm now noticing like there's some state of mind stuff that I think could address some of the other lingering issues he's having. So he's like really good with the place command, really good with bed, all this stuff, but he still has that like I walk out of the room, he's like, I'm gonna do this. I say break when we're on a structured walk when he's in heel, and he's like flies out. Like there's no calm. He's still at the like And so when I talked to the trainer, because we had a couple go home sessions, we had our last one yesterday, they were like, oh yeah, when you see another dog and he keeps whining, just like walk away. And I'm like, is that really addressing the issue? Because he's still like seeing another dog like fixating, and I'm correcting with the e-collar, and then it's not sinking in. He's still doing the whole like, I want to break the heel, I want to do this, and so I'm trying to get him back on the heel, but it doesn't seem like our communication is good. I'm not communicating effectively with him, and I also am well, what do I do now?
Yeah, because the way I look at it with dogs is everything's a resource. If you watch my videos, you know how I look at it. So every conversation we have, by the time I bring a dog out into a scenario where we're in public and there's other people coming at me that I don't know, I already have control over this dog socially. I gain it on my property, in my house, over different conversations. And so when I'm out there, I have social influence, which means if I disagree, they take it seriously. Just my voice. So the e-collar is an extension of me in my program. So if they know it's me correcting them. So the basic thing, the real error that the dog's making is that you said, I'm disagreeing with what you're perseverating on. I'm saying no to that. I don't want you to have that. I don't want you to think about that. And the dog continues to do it. So that's a follower. That's a problem with the following mentality. He hasn't quite learned how to follow out in public, when it's appropriate to go and check things out, and when it's not okay to be the kid in the candy aisle tugging out the sleeve saying, yeah, I mean, you got things you got to do. You got to go grocery shopping, but the kid's tugging on the sleeve saying he wants that candy bar over there. And if you don't give it to him, he's going to keep crying and crying and crying and crying about it. But how do we solve that? This is what everybody's trying to figure out right now. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but what I can do is I can tell you that if the dog feels different about it, then they change the way that they view it, they change the way they behave. So right now the dog's saying, I want to go over there. I want to go do this. What if the dog believed it didn't want to do that? The dog itself believed that was something it didn't want to do. What if it believed it was something it wanted to avoid? then what would it do? Would that cause the whining to go away? Probably. So I let the dog come to their own conclusion. And this is a very difficult thing to do if you don't have the resources, because we set the scenario up where it looks like we're going for a walk. It looks like it's the real world. It looks like a stranger and a dog are walking by us, but it's all under my control. It's by a friend of mine or Julie or a staff member who is walking this dog. We let the dog make the mistake of leaving our pack. And this isn't the first experience we have with the dog. Like I told you, we gain a follower first over the course of a week. Then the dog leaves the pack and goes and checks out this other pack. And as soon as it gets close enough where it's still safe to correct, I'm heading in the other direction with my body. The dog's on a long line, and I give it an e-collar correction and don't even say a thing and just gesture it to come on, let's go. Like, follow me, let's go. And then guess what we do? We go away for a second, we settle down, and then we set the situation up again with another dog or another person or the same person. And the dog has to decide, when I see something in the environment that just caught my interest, am I to drop what I'm doing and go check it out, or should I continue to follow the pack? And we start like this, before heel and everything. So we go after the big movements first. We let the dog explore all the options. Go over there and touch the fire and see what happens. It's hot. A lot of training, and then we tighten it up and get to heel. A lot of training companies are teaching small and then trying to teach the dog not to go out and do anything. So they're saying, hey, for your movements, I want you to stay right here and heel and don't move an inch. And that's how we're starting the process. We let the dog have all this freedom in the beginning, start correcting the things we don't like, and it creates a dog who hangs out close to us naturally until we've gestured it's time to go, and we can turn that into a heel. So, but there's no whining because the dog is educated and experienced with the environment. They know what's gonna happen when they go over there, and they know it's not worth their time. So therefore, they don't worry about it anymore. Now this can be really hard to do if the training, this is where a lot of training can, and I used to do this is why I know about this, because I made this mistake. You can train a dog, you can trap anxiety in the training. So like for example, a dog who's reactive to other dogs. If we're bringing that dog on a walk, they see another dog, they wanna go lunge and bark and do all this stuff. This is a good example to understand what I'm saying. And so the owner gets it trained. So what the trainer does is the trainer says, okay, I'm gonna teach you heel. So therefore, if you don't break heel, you can't lunge. And that's true, right? You say, listen,
That's
when we're
exactly
outside,
what my trainer had done.
you need to be in heel. And so what happens is the dog ends up, and this happens all the fucking time, and I have to redo dogs. They come here from other programs. So now the dog is healing, and it won't break its heel because it knows it gets firmly corrected, and it knows all about heel. It knows how to get back into position. It knows all that. But it sees another dog, and it yearns to go over there. I want to, but I'm in heel. But I'm not going to go over there because I'm in heel, but I want to. And the thing is, the dog won't go over to that other dog. Even after you talk to me, and I tell the trainer, we got to let the dog make the mistake. Now they're seeing the dog won't go because they know they'll get corrected for the heel command. So they won't go over there. So now you're stuck with a dog who associates this craziness. You can't change the association because he can't go have another experience. He's trapped within the command. And then they use it for like a fucking year. So the dog really gets ingrained that this is just how I feel when I see the leash, and it's just like this terrible cycle. So then I have to take the dog and get it to forget about the commands and act natural and make these explorations on your own and see what happens. See what happens for yourself. And we have aversive control, so we can make any experience, any choice that the dog chooses as aversive as I choose to make it. So if it's if the dog makes a choice on his own, gets an aversive, science says he's less likely to do that behavior again. And if you go around and spend a couple days letting your dog do whatever it wants and just starts to correct when it's doing the wrong thing and encourage it to follow, then what you're gonna see is the dog's gonna stop going out and doing stuff because they were all corrected, because they were all wrong. In that context, they were all wrong. You weren't supposed to ever leave my side, but I let you so you could taste the consequence on your own. Now you're hanging out with me. And we're going day after day, and you're just, you know when to follow, you know when to stop, and you know when I say break, you can go out in the environment. This is when you can explore. When I say break, that's when you can go out and explore. And you're gonna learn, dog, that if I don't say break, when you try to explore, there are consequences. And we make this the box that we have around them, as far as we let them go away from us, smaller and smaller. So at first I let them go as far as they want to go on the long line, but when they hit the end of the long line, they're corrected. So they have this big circumference around me that they can explore, and it gets corrected whenever they heavily invest themselves in something to the point where they don't pay attention to me and I'm able to walk away. They get corrected. So what happens is they end up paying attention to me and they get closer to me. And as they get closer to me, as the days go on, they don't stray as far. They might say, hey, I'm gonna check this thing out, even though I'm 5 feet away from you, I'm gonna check this thing out. And as I keep walking, if I notice the dog's not following, I'll correct, keep it closer and closer. So now I have a dog after the course of like 2 or 3 days that hangs around my bubble that's like a couple feet in circumference, but not usually ahead.
Yeah, and that's because you shaped those distances.
Yeah, and soon we'll get it to heel. We'll get it to, so when I beep, I want you on the left side, but I'm slowly taking away the freedom while letting the dog experience what happens when you are free, so that the dog's choosing to be close to us. Because it's a manipulation. At first they choose to be close to us, we're rewarding them. I like you being close to us. And then they build confidence and they try to go back out and we're correcting. And it's like, no, you had it right. In this moment, when I said, let's go, that means follow me. That means don't stop to do other things. Follow me to where we're gonna go. And then I'm gonna tell you to stop. Wait while I check out the environment. And then when I say break, you can go check it out. But here's the rule. As soon as you hear that beep again, or as soon as you hear me say come, you drop what you're doing and you come to me and follow. And the follow, the thing about the follow is it's a mentality. You're looking to do what you think I want you to do. And that's what you want from your dog. That's what everyone wants from the dog. But you have to expect it. So you can't always micromanage them. You can't be like heel, sit, break, heel, blah, blah, blah. If you do that to an adult dog for too long, they get frustrated. And that's what your dog is, frustrated, right?
Yeah.
They need to go and make the mistake. And you see teenagers, if you try to over micromanage a teenager, they get frustrated and bitter and they do crazy shit. Let them go sneak out and do the crazy thing, and then let them get, in trouble by the cops, and then don't bail them out. So you gotta let her explore, and your rule is you're following the pack right now because I said let's go. Now that's a rule. There's rules within that. Now she's gonna go explore and see what's wrong, like what parts of the boundaries get her corrected. She's gonna find them without you telling her. So she's gonna go and check something out. You're gonna take that opportunity to walk in the opposite direction without her seeing you, right? I usually just back up so I can keep looking at the dog, but I'm walking away. And then when I feel like we're an appropriate distance apart, that if she hits the correction and turns around, she's gonna notice, wow, I'm really far away from my owner when this correction happened. Maybe that has something to do with it after a couple times. And it's like, yes, it does. It does. You're supposed to follow. But so after the correction, come on, let's go. She starts following, good girl. It's more like it's a system that's in play. It's not you correcting her at this point necessarily. It's just she's bumping into like the electric fence, let's say. And you're the circumference of it. You're the epicenter of the circle that she has freedom around. And you slowly, you're gonna see she's gonna hang out really closer to you. And this is the first step. And now you're not even worrying about heel. And if she sees something like a dog and she starts to go and try to take care of it, whatever way she sees fit, saying hi or being nervous or whatever, being cautious, she says, I see something new. I'm going to decide how to respond to this as a pack. That's against the rules. So she just responds and you say, no. And then she responds again. That's a physical correction. And that's also you being put behind me. Chill. Watch them go by. Okay? Good. All right, let's go. Not heel, let's go. Now when we see another dog, you're gonna see her look at the other dog, but then know she's not supposed to do what she thinks. She's gonna look at you, and in that moment she looks at you, she just did the right thing. So you're looking for that to say, good girl. You seen that, and then you looked at me to say, hey boss, what are we doing about this? And then I'll give you direction from that. I'll say, let's go, or whatever. And letting you know, like we're just passing by. And I want the dog to understand that we're never, when it comes to other packs, we're trying to avoid them. We're not trying to go up on them. Very, very rarely will we go up on one, and it's only if I say, right? Because every now and then you will stop to talk to somebody. But the dog's mentality needs to be that they're not for you. They are things we're avoiding. And if you try to go up on them, you have me to deal with eventually, right? But first, we got to let her go up on them, because then the anxiety goes away. Then she's not worried about it as much, And so we usually do it with people we know to start with, but the dog feels like it's a very organic experience, and you're going on this walk, And the whole idea is that when she leaves you after you do the follow me, let her, and then correct her while you keep walking, and then encourage her to come back to you. And then that person who helped you trigger that, they leave the environment somehow. I don't know how, and then they reappear. So that way the dog gets a chance to see how they're going to respond. And if they start to react, you got to remember, we're not looking to correct them right away. We're not looking to see them react and just slam on them. We're looking to let them react. Wait a second. Okay. Now I'm going to say no, right? After a second. You have about a 1 Mississippi, because this is what a dog will do is they'll react and then they'll catch themselves. And we want to make sure we're not correcting them on the ones that they're catching themselves. And you don't know if they're going to catch themselves if you're correcting them, if you're trigger happy. So you got time, all right? So she reacts, as long as it's not an explosion. You just see the body stiffen, and you see it all, the whining, and you see her just gravitate towards it a little bit. She might even move a couple steps.
Like, he gets first it's obviously ears forward, and then it's like the wrinkled forehead, and so I'm like, I know you're looking at something.
Does he have tone recall?
We're using this thing. I'm feeling like I'm
Gotcha.
Like doesn't have tone.
It doesn't have tone? The reason why we're using the tone is because it's neutral. It just means come back to your handler no matter who the handler is. And you don't have to scream or anything, and the dog understands the conversation. So after they're corrected, they run back to you. And so that's why we use that, because if I let the dog go out to explore the thing and they get close and they get in their mind like, okay, when I correct is when they commit fully. So the dog's thinking about doing it but not doing it, right? You're just backing away to give it space. It's thinking about going up on another dog, but it's not doing it. I'm still not correcting yet in the first initial steps, because remember, I want to go after the big movements first. So I want to let this dog go away from me and get corrected before I start correcting it just for thinking about stuff. And that's what was missing in the last program, which is not uncommon because I used to not do what I do now. And this thing's evolving. So we let the dog say, okay, I'm going over there. As soon as their mind goes, I'm going over there, and you just see them start to go and they're committed, then that's when I go, bing, correction first, and then the recall. Because I'm not recalling you. This is the thing. When a dog makes an error, you don't give them a command. You give them a punishment, and then you give them a command. So you say, correction for what you just did, do this instead. So it's like, I'm running towards the dog. Correction, wrong, come. Let me tell you how many people don't do that though. They go, come first. They recall the dog, and here's the thing is the dog does recall because of the training, but it never tasted. In its eyes, if it gets corrected anytime after that beep, it's for the recall, not for the lunge. So people are missing that conversation. No, when you said, I'm leaving, you've seen it in the mind where you said, I'm committed to go over there, whether it's friendly or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your dog's being friendly. They said in their mind, yep, I'm going, bam. And it's usually a nice, heavy correction. Like heavier than you think it's supposed to be. Like they ran into a fence, the dog doesn't know what happened, and then you go, beep, come back, let's try again. You know what's funny? This ends anxiety. Because now I don't want to do that, because it sucked. That's how it works. That's why we don't speed, because it sucks when, you're not gonna speed next to a state trooper. You're gonna do it when you think they're not looking. But if your dog views you, they know part of your personality is that state trooper. They give you what you want, which is, let your presence change my behavior. Like when you're driving crazy and a cop gets behind you, the influence of how you feel about that cop changes how you behave. You slow down, you do all this. That's what you really want, whether you know it or not. You want your dog to respect what you've said in the past and to try to do it again without me asking you. That means you have to have conversations where you're putting your dog in its place, in the right way. Like it takes a study to know how to do it, But once you do it, once you get a dog to respect you like that, that's when they do what you're asking for them to do, which is read the room. Look at me and what do you think I'd like you to do? That's when you get a dog where you say, that's just a good dog. That dog's got good judgment. It's because you're expecting it to, because you're not babying it. You're not saying, do this, do this, do this, don't do that, do this. You're saying, listen, there's rules, you'll run into them, here's how we deal with the consequences. And if you pay attention, there won't be consequences, and I'll also let you know you're doing a good job. It's more of a tough love than it is like this new, like, you have to explain everything to dog. 400 reps of this and that. It's like, no, that's what's giving anxiety. That's what's giving anxiety. Nature doesn't give 400 reps to learn something. And if you start treating dogs through a behavioral lens, right, like trainers, then they'll see that it's about changing the way the dog thinks than it is to like really nail in a command, right? Commands are easy to teach. It doesn't take 5 weeks to teach those commands. You know.
Having him hold a sit stay didn't solve his anxiety.
No, but he's got this communication now, so that's good. I'm sure it's great training. I'm not knocking the training. It's just there was no behavioral end to it, which maybe that's just not what they do. But anyway, your dog can get better, but it's going to take you knowing these little rules. So I recommend watching, during your education, watching old dog whispering stuff. Cesar Millan. Old episodes, not the new stuff. The old stuff, because you'll see him here and there, and you can fast forward. When you start getting the rhythm of the show, you can fast forward to the people talking, just watch him with the dogs. He points out what's rude behavior towards a dog, from a dog towards a human, which I'm convinced a lot of people just don't know. What's rude behavior in general, as far as how a dog who's under a pack leader should be behaving. They shouldn't be raising their energy above the pack leaders. There's all sorts of things that you should know so that you can correct your dog. So, these rules are developed from dogs. It's translated from dogs to humans to teach humans how to treat dogs like dogs, how they treat each other. And it works. It works because your dog's a predator, and there's a very physical communication between dog and dog. And so the dog whispering stuff is going to give you that extra amount of respect and trust because it's going to teach you how to deal with your dog without an electronic. Okay? Because the electronic, it's great, but you're not going to have what you want if what you want is this tight-ass relationship if you're relying on a remote collar that wasn't around 20 years ago. Okay? You have to understand how to be a leader without that, right? I'm not saying don't use it. Use it. Of course, use it as an extension of you and your knowledge, but don't use it as a crutch, like I need this zapper to get my dog to listen. That's why, if that's the case, we won't ever get her to the point where she needs to be, where she has somebody that she trusts and respects to the point where if you say no to something, she respects you enough not to fuss with it, but she trusts you enough to believe that you are actually making a good choice. And the way you do that with a dog is you prove it to them. That's why we do experience trainings. We do controlled experiences. We set these experiences up to give dog life lessons and to manipulate. We also add in the commands in there to be like, hey, if you're looking to use a command, heel is probably a good one to use in this scenario. And we teach the dogs how to use the commands on their own to make their humans happy, right? And our humans can still use it, but they don't have to be like, sit, heel, come, that, and that's how you move around the world. You do that when you really need the structure. If you're going through a store or something and you're like, hey, heel, we need to be tight. But for the majority of your time moving, the dog knows how to follow you. They know how to heel. They'll put themselves in heel when it's appropriate, and you'll be like, damn, my dog's awesome. But at any time you need it to be tight, you just give the command and they can't leave it. But you're looking for a dog, I imagine you're looking for your dog to be less anxious about the world and to just be able to make good choices without you having to tell her what to do all the time.
Yeah.
That's it. But it's like, everything I just said, you got a video, so you get to rewatch it. That's why I didn't stop, because you're going to be able to just rewind it and rewatch what I said, because Julie's going to send you that, because we're filming it. But I just wanted to shift the way we're thinking about her, because if she starts whining, or she gets anxious because you're leaving the room, right? That's not good.
It's not the whining, like when I leave the room. I worked on his crate stuff so extensively, he knows. Go in there, power off.
Even if you're in the house or if you leave?
Yeah. Yep.
Good job.
He's really, really good in the crate.
Good work.
But it's just the walk, and after I watched a bunch, pretty much every YouTube video under the sun, I was like, okay, there's a missing piece here. And I'd gone to the trainer saying I want to teach him how to cope with this, how to self-soothe, and that part is definitely just missing, and it's not, as you said, I don't think it's something
the coping skill thing. The coping skill thing is important. So we haven't really talked about that yet. We talked about letting the dog fully make mistakes, fully go up on things and learn about it. And when I don't know how much experience this dog has in the outside world. Maybe it needs freedom to just have positive experiences with environment. Not even just, I'm not talking about dogs and humans, I'm talking about just environment. Trees, grass, cities, streets, in cars and stuff. Maybe it needs some of this, I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from, but I do know that if you form a pack with the dog properly, then you can override all of it. And that's what I sell, is the pack is stronger than anything. If the dog views you as you are it. You are the leader, you are the everything in their life, and it's done well. It doesn't matter what's out in front of me. It doesn't matter if it's an elephant, a car, another dog, all that stuff. It's like, that's symptoms of your actual problem. The dog's responding, and it's not supposed to be. You're supposed to be responding. It's a hierarchy fail. The dog's jumping into a position that he's not supposed to be, and another dog would correct that physically, and then they would submit the dog until the dog went into the submissive state of mind, which you have to be able to identify. So then the dog can realize, next time I want you in the calm, submissive state of mind when this happens. Okay? I don't want you to still be like this but not dealing with it. I also want you calm around this because I choose how to deal with it when something new comes.
Yeah,
And you start that in the house, though. You start that in the house. You start that with the conversations of, like, we're in the living room, and the dog's like, I'm interested to see who's here, and it's no. Because what happened is a sound entered the environment, and if you bark, if you whine, if you take a step towards the door, you just made your own choice, which is reactivity, on how to deal with the situation without allowing me to decide, which I take offense to. This is how dogs believe. This is why dogs fight each other, and people are like, it came out of nowhere. It's like, nope, you're just an ape that doesn't know canine language, right? And we're very similar, by the way, to dogs. I really do believe that. I know we have consciousness and all that, but we're very similar. We're pack-oriented as well, and we are hierarchical as well. It's not, and the thing about the hierarchy is that with humans, it shifts. Like, I might be good in one situation, and then Julie's better in a different situation, so we share the role of leading, but we're parents, so we're supposed to. And dogs do the same thing. Wolves, the mom and dad are both leading. And then it goes by an order. It goes in an order of like the puppies are following all the adults. That's why we want humans to listen to all. We want dogs to believe, to feel good listening to all humans. And we know that not all humans are good, but our dog doesn't need to concern themselves with that. We do, unless you're doing protection work. And this dog, any dog who has insecurities like this, they have horrible judgment, so they're not going to be good at protection work. But if you do this stuff, the pack stuff, and you teach your dog to allow you to show her how to respond, or him, sorry, you'll be surprised how quick that eventually you might actually be able to then give him some responsibilities, like a little growl if it's an inappropriate person coming to the door. And it's like the dog never growls, but this one time somebody came up and it was a weird person, and all he did was a little and then he let you take charge. After that person leaves, I'm going to tell my dog, that was good, because that was proper judgment. You know what that wasn't? The insecure dog response of just fucking flipping out. That's why dogs correct insecure dogs. They correct them because you're not good enough at making choices, and you'll get us killed. So that's why dogs correct other dogs for energy. If there's something to be done and the other dog's trying to build up their energy and go do it, it's going to get corrected. And if it doesn't stop, it's going to get pack corrected. Now, that's what's going to happen to your dog. If he comes to live with my pack or any other pack, he'll try to deal with a situation. He'll get corrected by the top, whoever's above him. It's not your role. You're way back there. You're so far back there, we don't even want you to look wrong right now. But as you get yourself in a better space and you grow and develop and mature, then one day you're going to be a little bit higher up on that totem pole, and you're going to get a little bit more responsibility, but you're also going to get some more freedoms. And there's going to be a guy that comes in behind you, like a new puppy, that's below you. And this is how they go. But when they're with humans, though, they just assume that you're just there to take care of them. You're just thumbs. You open the fridge, you open the door, you pet them, and then they deal with all dog-to-dog stuff. And you know what? I'm going to deal with the human-to-human stuff, too. I'm also going to bark when humans come by. So the answer to that stuff is going to in the house, your dog's not going to bark. Your dog's not going to do all that, but your dog's going to react. So you're looking at smaller stuff. You're looking at anything too intense for too long. So knock, 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 and the dog's like, this, that's a no-no. The really intense thing. So all you do is just disagree with it verbally. You just say, shh, or no. And if your dog settles, then we're fine. And then you repeat it again in a few minutes, right? Catch the dog off guard. They get intense again.
I'm listening, sorry.
I'm thinking of the scenario. What would I do? If they get intense again, I would just correct first and then say no. So I'm not, because we don't want to keep letting them escape by taking the warning. Like, okay, you always get a warning. It's like, in this situation when you hear a knock, I'm trying to tell you, I don't want you, I'm trying to let you know that I want to deal with this, and I don't even want you to think about it, because if you're thinking about it like that intensely, then that means that you're going to behave off of one of those thoughts. But if he looks up, after one of those questions, if he looks up just very soft and kind of like less concerned and more looking at you like, what am I supposed to be doing? That's a good. That's where I want you to be. Even though it looks like the dog's insecure in that moment, they are, because I just said, don't do what you normally do. And then they say, well, then what do I do? Because that's what I normally do. That's why you see that insecurity. It's because that you just took away their only move. And so then I answer the door, and it's all fake. There's nobody there the first time. It's just me. The dog falls for it when you're just, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And so I teach them how, that's just one example of how to start to get them to learn when something enters the environment. Let me deal with it. And if you try to deal with it, you have me to deal with, right? But if you let me deal with it, I'm proud of you, because that's our proper dynamic in our relationship. And we will always butt heads over that, so just let it go. All right, and that goes for everything. It goes for, you can't overdo this. You have to have a good eye, because if your dog responds appropriately but listens, but isn't intense and doesn't have the intent in taking charge, it's just curious, that doesn't get corrected. But people don't see that. They just see the dog looking and they correct. And now the dog gets fucked up in the head, because it's like, well, what do I do? I don't know what to do. State of mind training takes a very, very good eye. It's to be able to know what your dog is feeling and practically thinking, which luckily, if you're paying attention, they aren't that difficult to figure out. Dogs aren't. They're not. They're really not.
Yeah. I can, through all this, I can definitely, I read him so much better than I did before.
I can tell that you can read him by the way that you talk about him and the problems, so.
Appreciate that. It's just,
Yeah.
Eternal skill. But, what else was I going to talk about? So, in terms of putting some of this state of mind stuff into practice and building the pack mentality within the house, what does that look like in terms of
that's a good
training, but just the practice of it?
I'm going to tell you that right now, and you'll be able to rewind it. There is something to it. There is a structure. I have my own that works for my life, and I'll give you an example. But it's based off from dogs' needs, but also the modern day human, because we need a lot of downtime, and that's a little more unnatural for dogs, but they can do it. So what I do is, assuming that the dog is sleeping in the crate, I'll just go by board and train kind of thing, or troubled dog who's still. This isn't my dog Riggins, who's already as good as he gets all the freedoms. He doesn't sleep in a crate. He has the responsibility of sleeping in the living room and watching the door all night and all that stuff. He's developed, but he started at the bottom. Okay, so this is what it looks like. When your dog's starting at the bottom, which means that's what we'll start with here. Bottom of the pack. If you have other dogs, it could be beneficial. If you have a dog that's better in the mind than her,
Yeah, we do.
Good. That dog should be around during this, you start doing things together as a pack. And the way that the big ones are eating, playing, migrating, that kind of stuff, moving out in the world, traveling together, that's big for dogs, and they usually play while they're out. And resting, that's really it. There's not much we do. There's not much else we do. The physical activity in the natural world is going to be playing with each other, and maybe a resource like a stick, which we usually use ball or something, that's fine, frisbee, and a lot of just exploring a new territory together. They fucking love it. They love it. They lived for that. Or even going back to a one that they know regularly, just going away from the house and going and doing something, getting away from the den. So the way it looks is our dogs are waking up in the kennel. We open the kennel door. They don't get out till we say. It starts right there. First of all, it starts in the kennel. No noise in the kennel. Relax. The kennel, all that. The worst is nonsense in the kennel is the worst. So you got that taken care of. You're good. You wake up with him. If you wake up first and you feel like he needs a potty break, that's all right. But don't feel pressured that you have to go right to your dog. I don't go to my dog. My dog knows that when I get up, there's going to be 2 hours before I get to you, and it doesn't even leave its bed. So whatever you decide to base it around what's going to make you happy first, because that'll keep the dog doing more stuff with you if you're happy. So the whole thing is the dog's trying to put its needs first, and that's not what good dogs do. Good dogs They're there to like make us feel better, unfortunately. So that he has to learn how, because he wasn't like, you know, he wasn't raised to learn how. So you have to teach him late in the game, which he can learn. So, and this is time. Time is, I want you to know, time's a tool. We're taking every day, every experience stacks onto another, and eventually it changes the way the dog thinks and therefore the way the dog behaves. So it's just the way we get out of the kennel is like, just come on out of the kennel and let's go potty real quick. It's just a potty in the dog's head. It's not a walk. It's just relieving yourself, getting a drink of water, whatever you need, because then you're gonna go back on, you're gonna go on place, or you're gonna go on some type of stay. Whether it doesn't even have to be a command. If you really want to work on the state of mind, you can just tell them to go and start doing informal stuff, like go. And what go means, it means go relax, but I'm not going to tell you exactly where, but go relax. You can do that kind of stuff too, but the dog is now in a stay. They're waiting for you to do whatever a human has to do. Coffee, check their phone, whatever I need to do. I don't know. Go wait. And the thing is they can't follow you from room to room. They have to wait there. So that's why place was invented, but you can do it without place. You can say stay in that room. You have that freedom, because you can always say go to place, but you can also start doing, it sounds like you want more of the dog just understanding when just, hey, go, and you know what that means. You know I'm going to do my routine. You can do that with or without place, and I would probably mix the two. I would probably do it without place, and then when he's making mistakes, it's like go to place. But if you don't make the mistake, I won't tell you to go to place. You can lay over here, and if you want to lay in place, you can. I'm offering you freedom, dog, but listen to my rule. Don't leave this room. Stay, not stay, but I usually say go relax. My dog goes and lays down somewhere, and then I go and do my business. And if the dog gets up to try to follow me, I correct and push them back using spatial pressure. But that doesn't last long. Dogs are smart. They know what you want. And they wait. And it's hard the first day or two, but not really probably in the house for you guys. It's probably pretty easy for you. So you get him to do that while you get ready, and then it's out to do something with him. That's what I would do. First thing in the morning, it's time to go for the migration, the pack walk. You know, and if it has to just be you and him, or if you have the opportunity to go into the woods from your house, it's best to do it where there's less rules. It's like, let's just go stretch our legs. But if you have to walk in a structured heel to get there, that's just, you got to do it, dog, and he'll learn to do it. No fussing on the way there. And then you go and have your fun. When you get there, it's a place where he can have fun and you can have fun, and you do something together, whatever it is. I usually hike and just let my dogs have, there's rules, don't run away from me, come when called, all that stuff, but I'm not looking to train you right now. I'm just looking to let you get some energy out. And then when we're done with that, it's back into the heel. It's assuming we had to walk there, and we're walking home with no fuss, in heel. So we walk there with no fuss, okay? See, every day gets better and better. You have your fun, and then we walk back with no fuss. Imagine a week of that, the dog understands that we're going to do something fun, so they stop fussing. They're not as anxious about it because it's the same fucking pattern. Yeah. And the same rules, so they get it and they feel better. This dog will feel better because he'll know, this poor guy. I keep calling him a she. He'll know exactly your routine in the morning, which is like super important, because by the time you get back, it's time for another rest period. So it's just like, it's like ups and downs, right? So we just did something. Now, you're doing nothing. I need to get your body familiar with doing nothing. So that's why we use place, we use the kennel, we just use the downstay, or just chill. Because I'm gonna go and do this. Whether it's you leaving the house or not, even if it's you not leaving the house, the dog's just chilling. And if the dog has trouble being away from you, he's chilling a little bit away from you, to work on that too, because we want to make sure we're working on everything. It could even be in another room, which isn't ideal for you because you want your dog there, but if you feel like you need to work on that, that's one way to do it.
I definitely do. He'll follow me.
I know it sucks, but you don't have to do it all day. You just have to, this is all that has to happen. He just has to accept that you're gonna have him do it and let you do it, and if he does that, if his mind's like, okay, I'll stay here. When his mind's like that, okay, I'll stay here, he can leave at any time. But while his mind's like, I don't want to be here, listen, as your human, as your number one person, man, I just told you to stay here. Can you just do it? We need to tackle that. That's big, big, big problem. And that's going to be related to a lot of the anxiety stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's going to teach him the coping skill. That's the coping skill thing of, hey, if you sit here and just relax, which he'll learn to do because you're going to correct him for not relaxing, which makes him decide to relax, he will learn how to cope with not being able to go and up on something he wants to, which is you at this point, but this directly relates outside when he's going up on things that he's not supposed to be. So it's a great practice. I would add it into the morning, and then And then usually we spend time together though too, you know, where he'll be in the same room relaxing while you're doing whatever you do. And if the dog's, if you're cleaning or something, the dog can be on place and you can just be shuffling all around the house and he gets used to that. That's great practice too. And then that's hours. That's hours of, you're not doing anything and we're expecting the dog to not move. You can't pick up, if the dog's not in a command, it can't pick up that. One of the unspoken rules, I guess, is you can't pick up and go room to room. My dog today can't even do that. That sends a bad message to the dog that they own the place. And so if a dog's struggling, that's part of the rules. Don't pick yourself up and go poking your nose around the counters of the kitchen. That all gets corrected by me as the pack leader in this house. You're sniffing at
Is that sort of like a no, like go to your place because...
Yes, and then if he does it again, it's physical. That's usually it. But if you notice it's an everyday thing, but he listens when you say no, but he always does it once, then you got to sneak in a correction where he doesn't see it coming for doing it. And that way he just stops doing it. And like that's the behavioral way of thinking. Like, how do we get him to not do it? We get him to realize that it's not fun. He stops doing it. Like, it just works, right? Because the dog's gonna do what he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. That's dogs. That is what dogs do usually. And usually they like what we like. So they like being pets. So that's usually why they're getting, I hate to break it to America, but the dogs are selfish usually in the beginning. But you can get it so they're not though. And I see it. You can get a dog to want to please you. And people from old school mentalities, that's how their dogs are. Because they from early on, it's like they're getting a smack in the face for something, and they're getting this for that, and they're getting this for that. Those experiences stacked on top of each other a year into its life changes the way the dog behaves. That's not happening these days, so dogs are entitled brats, and they become dominant. And the dogs that we see that are anxious like this aren't always from shelters. The people can create them from babies. And we're talking people who spend a lot of money on dogs because the lack of structure, like the shelters are bad place for a dog. It causes a lot of problems, but so doesn't the average home, man. It's nutty. The coddling can cause some problems if it's not balanced out and it's not, the lifestyle is only coddles with a dog, and I know why we do it. I get it, because it feels good. And the dog enjoys it and we enjoy it. That's part of having a dog, but the other part's missing. Where the part where I say get off the bed and he doesn't, and then we just leave him on the bed, like these things are happening too. And now we got a dog who bites. And now we got a dog who bites a kid in the face, who's not actually a bad dog. He just believes he's above that kid in the hierarchy, and he gave him a correction. He wasn't looking to hurt the kid, like to kill the kid. He was looking to correct the kid because you're getting on my sofa, you're touching me, and I'm above you. So take that. And the thing is the kid has soft skin, so he gets torn up, right? And now this dog gets put down, and it didn't have to get put down. All it needed is you needed to be willing to bite your dog before it thought it could bite another pack member. It's just how it goes, because they're predators, because they're dogs. That's how it goes. And so, so knowing this stuff, watching Cesar Millan and understanding how to view a dog, a predator, and how to live with it successfully and lead it successfully, then all of a sudden when you have that knowledge and it just clicks and everything clicks, now all your problems will start going away with your dog. And you won't be confused. And you will also see that maybe you should become a dog trainer, because we need more dog trainers that think about dog behavior, not just tools and like how to teach plays and how we can correct a dog for getting off from a cot. It's like, that's cool. You could do that with any animal if the collar's big enough, but it's not creating balanced dogs, because it's not a balanced approach. It doesn't take in behavior to consideration, and it's just remote training. And so you have an interest in it, and you have a dog who has a need. So that's the perfect combination of somebody who becomes educated and then realizes that whether you like it or not, you're more educated than most of America. And now maybe you have a responsibility, So that's how I got into it. And
really cool. I can see myself floating that way. Well, maybe I don't think training is for me because I have a patience issue.
Well, that's what the dogs teach you, I have a patience issue too,
But they teach us so much just from that perspective. But it's been actually really fascinating. Like, there are obviously ups and downs for me as well, and I'm like, I don't get why he's doing this. Like, why is he doing it? But then it's like, okay, well then that's an opportunity to learn. Like, why is he growling at me?
Exactly.
Thanks. Yeah.
See why he would do it to a dog. Like, that's what you're gonna learn through the Cesar Millan stuff. I think is you'll see the whys, and then it's just gonna be, you're gonna see it clearly, because once you know it, you don't see it. Once you are able to read it, you just see it, and it takes years. But the more you read different dogs too, eventually it becomes that, like me and you, we don't have to think about the words coming out of our mouth. You know, at first you have to look and like you're looking at the dog's body language, but eventually, and already I think you probably are sensitive to maybe like what some, I don't know how to define it. Some people would call like energy or something. Like if I was like sitting next to you and I was in a real bad mood, but I didn't say anything, you might be able to feel it. You know that kind of thing. If you can do that, if you're sensitive in that way where you can feel the vibe in the air, with dogs, that goes a long ways. Because you can feel the tension, you can feel the anxiety. So that's part of the reason why somebody who is sensitive wants the dog who has anxiety to go away, because it's bad vibes to be around, because it bleeds into you. You feel that. And then and then you have to take energy. You have to put energy to put a wall up to not be affected by it, and that's depleting energy. And we don't want to get so much energy in a day. So whether we're thinking about that or not, eventually it's like, I want this dog to not whine. Even in those situations, because it just feels, it's not even just the sound, it's just the way the dog feels, and then you feel what the dog's feeling, you're like, oh, and you can't get it to go away. So this is how you get it to go away, and learning more about how to live with a pack of dogs and how to lead them. Using the e-collar still, of course. The e-collar is the best tool in the market, as far as I'm concerned. It's the best. It just has to be not used as a crutch, though, because it can be. You can get dogs to do all sorts of behaviors without their minds wanting to, and they'll do it. They'll whine though, you know, and they'll complain about it, but they'll do it because you got a gun to their head. They don't want to get shocked. That's what it is. And that's not how I like to use the collar. You know, I use the collar like that if I have to set boundaries to keep it safe and make sure the dog's not fussing. But then you lean off, and then you don't lean on that anymore. You lean on a dog learning how to behave in a situation. And then you see a dog that feels proud and confident. And most dogs can get that way. Some dogs are going to need the gun to the head training, because that's how they stay alive. Because if they don't, they're going to hurt something. Now, your dog's not that dog, and most dogs aren't that dog. So, yes, that's my take on the dog training thing, and why behavior is important to be involved, and that what went wrong with your gentleman there. But to be fair to you, you got a dog that already had these issues. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like you messed up when the dog young, and now you feel the responsibility to help him out. You see that this is how he was when you got him. I mean, let's see how much work you can make with him, because we can make a lot. He'll always be him in whatever his genetical makeup is, but we can raise the tolerance to certain things and develop skills, and the way he thinks is just a little different, to the point where he's comfortable. And you are too, and you're happy. Now, I mean, as far as like, you could come out and shadow me if you would like eventually. That would help a little with learning how. I want to do it right now. If you ever decided that you were like, you wanted to learn how to do this for a living, I would come to a place like mine. It doesn't have to be ours, but I would look for a place that thought behaviorally first, but also were balanced, which means they use punishment, because not using punishment isn't real. That's not nature, and dogs are nature. When you're looking at the dog,
from the thought, I mean, not to put them down, like positive reinforcement works up to a point.
It does, of course. That's why it's part of, you know, it has its place, and we use it every day. But the lack of punishment there's a reason why it doesn't work. It's because what works is going to be what mimics nature, because dogs are nature. That's what it comes down to. They can't help but to be nature, because they don't have consciousness, so they can't fuck with us like we can fuck with each other. They just are nature. So if it works, if what I'm doing, if you watch what I do and you see, wow, that's working, that means we're going with Mother Nature. And that's what Cesar Millan will say, is don't go against Mother Nature. And if you try to take punishment out where punishment's needed, you'll never, well, that's the part, there's going to be a point in time where the dog needs to be physically corrected in its life. And to avoid, and a kid too, like you have to keep your kids safe. There's certain things that the kid, you can't let have its own experience, and you can't let the dog either. You can't say, hey, let me show you what happens when you get hit by a car. It's like, I can't let you do that, so I have to punish you sufficiently enough, so that you decide not to mess with that boundary, so you don't get hit by the car. It's just being responsible. And I think the shift in the way people view discipline these days, same with kids, this is the big problem, and with dogs, is it's overcorrected. Like, Now we're over soft because we were too firm at one point. Things got overboard, so we overcorrected. Now we're too soft, and now we're getting the ramifications of that. And I think eventually we'll balance out. But right now it's still in the too soft phase. I mean, I'm watching people around me every day, and it's like, wow, my dad and the guys I grew up around, that's not how they deal with the situation. And so, so there's a time and a place for punishment, right? But your dog is doing good at listening, I suppose. It's just more of letting it let it get those punishments, but on its own, outside.
Yeah, I think that situation you set up of like, okay, like, we go outside, he's not on a heel, like, what does he choose to do? And,
Yeah.
being like,
Yeah. Well, don't do that. Right?
Yeah, because we can use Toby, that's the other dog in the house. Like, if he's obviously very relaxed around him here because they coexist and there's boundaries between them. Like, Toby don't like shove your face in Monty's face. He doesn't like that.
He knows.
Yeah, he's a lad, so he's like all the time. But I think just having like Toby move around, see like what Monty does would be huge.
Yeah.
And see if maybe I can enlist some neighbors over here to do the same with their dog.
That's very good. It's a very good start. And then once your dog stops reacting, though, there will be a point pretty quick. The dog's not dumb. That it won't fall for the bait. So it won't go and do the thing that you were expecting it to do. And in that moment, the important thing to do is start leading. So you say good, and then give some direction. Maybe not formal, maybe not a heel, but like, let's go. Like, so you're telling him, yes, you did the right thing by not paying attention, but also part of this puzzle is that you're looking at me to listen to me. Especially when things that we don't know are going by. And so it's just things we don't know, things we're curious about. What is that? Those types of things, I need you to behave this way. Don't react to it, which is where the corrections come in for letting him react to it. Then he doesn't react to it. And then he gets a little reward for not reacting to it because he'll look at you. And you said affection is everything. So we want to make sure we're using those in just those training moments, because if we withhold that affection, the good boy, and like all the lavishing, when we do say good boy, in a stressful time like training, it's going to feel a lot better, right? Rather than just being available at all times. Now what we do is we take resource control as part of this too. So we have aversive control because we got an e-collar on the guy. So we can make an experience aversive anytime we want. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
A dog can change the way he wants to behave, and that's really what we're trying to do. But we also have resource control, which means I have control of when I pet you, which is a reward. So I can choose when you get those, and I can give you those for not doing the thing that you're trying to avoid doing because of the correction. You're doing it to avoid the correction, but because you're avoiding that, I'm going to give you a pet. And so, boom, just like that. It's not this though. It's not, or even a cookie. You could even use food, but whatever. I prefer the pet. And it's not this. If you don't look at that, I'll give you a cookie. That's what people do. It's go ahead, go do your thing over there, and to the point where you're now in avoidance. And when you're in avoidance, I'm going to reward you for being in avoidance. I'm going to reward you even heavier for looking at me because you don't know what to do. And then from there, the anxiety about
It's not bribery.
It's you're rewarding a choice rather than bribing a choice out of them. And so the bribing thing, dude, I see it all the time. That stuff's still going around. Not as bad, but the purely positive stuff's still going around here and there. And you see these dog-reacted dogs walking by us every now and then. And they're like taking food and they're like swiping in front of the dog's face. And they're trying to get it. The dog's flipping out. And I'm like, just smack it. Do something. It'll stop. Like, because the dog is not serious most of the time. It's just this little rambunctious guy, but it's going to become serious. But if you just went whap, and I know it sounds harsh, but if you just went whap, you save yourself years of misery. You just say, hey, what the hell's this? Right? Make a scene about it. What are you doing? Knock it off. The dog at that young of an age, because everyone's dogs I'm talking about, they're like 6 months to a year. They just got these things, the COVID dogs. And so it's like that was the appropriate time to smack it, though. Not a year later when you're frustrated and the dog didn't do anything wrong, but you're frustrated, right? And you overcorrect the dog because you never took control in the early stages. Now you're acting out of frustration. That was the time to smack the dog, or whatever you're going to choose to do to the dog. If you're ever going to do it, is when you're walking peacefully, he looks at your neighbor and goes, ah! That was the time to smack him. That was it right there. You missed it. You missed it. Because you missed it. It's okay, he's friendly is what you get. And then what happens? The dog gets pet.
Exactly.
By the thing.
And he's rewarded reported.
And it goes on, and then finally they're like, everything's fucked up. And it's like, yeah, dude. Yes, it is. You messed up way back. Way back. You're just now realizing a year later that you need professional help. But you had a chance. If I could like rewind the clock, I'd be like, remember that time he barked for the first time? You had a chance. Remember that time he jumped on a guest the first time? You had a chance. You had all these opportunities to talk about not doing that again tomorrow. But you didn't do it, and on top of that, the dog got rewarded for doing it. And why do you think they're all misbehaving? It's not the dog's fault. It's not the dog's fault, you know. And some of these dogs, they have some genetical issues because we're getting them from, they're being bred poorly, right? And they're ended up in shelters. So they're getting bred without anyone knowing, and then it's bad breeding. Nobody wants the dog, not even the people who bred the dog. The dog ends up on the streets, ends up in the shelters, and then ends up getting marketing in just the right way that it ends up in your living room.
Yeah, like, they're like,
It has.
They don't love other dogs, but they're good for
Yeah, it's not good.
I see it all the time.
It's not good. Cats end up dying. Like I hear it all. I hear it because because of what we do.
You get the dogs that have those issues.
You hear it all the time. You see, yeah, and they're biting kids, and they're biting cats, and they're killing dogs, and they're killing. But the dog is sweet when it's in the bed cuddling for Netflix, and I get that. I understand that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that when you went to get a dog, the day you said, I want a dog, if you didn't go there and you went to this place that doesn't exist, instead, that can guarantee you that the dog doesn't have fucked up genetics, which is something that I'm in the works of trying to develop. A place that goes and gets the dogs that aren't messed up and says, here, get these ones, because those ones are messed up, right? They don't do that for you. They just want every dog out. They put it through a little bit of a behavioral, a temperament test. They try to see, like the really bad ones, the ones that are biting bad, obviously biting, they don't get into your living room. But the ones that you push just a little bit further than the shelter people do, they're everywhere. They're in everybody's houses, and they can be dangerous. It can be dangerous. So
this is why. So I actually used to volunteer for a couple rescues in the DMV area because I lived down there for a while.
Nice.
There's this one, I can't remember what it's called. Oh, Lucky Dogs and Cats. You've maybe heard of it.
I have actually. I have actually.
Okay, yeah. So so many dogs and cats come through them, like thousands. So I used to foster with them until I realized they don't do. They say they do behavioral stuff, but they really don't. So like one time they're offloading the dogs and cats from the van they took to like drive them up from South Carolina or whatever. They're getting them to the fosters, and one of the staff got so badly bitten, she had to have surgery, and the dog immediately had to be put down.
Ooh.
And then I was like, okay, are they really looking at the dog behavior or not? So I actually went with a different rescue to get Monty, because I was like, you can't just bring a dog like that. Like, oh, he didn't bite me in the behavior.
Yes.
It's fine.
That's right. You have to put them through what I put them through, which is like, what do you do when I hate to say it, but this is what it comes down to. Your dog in your living room, you should be able to touch it anywhere. Number one, you should be able to touch it anywhere and it doesn't bite you. That's not happening. You just go to rub these dogs down, like say, okay, I'm gonna comb you. I'm serious about this. They're going to strike.
I saw one about like the dog that was like.
It's insane. And what it is, the dog's good enough where it'll growl or something, or it might just give like a little nip so it's livable. But it's like you didn't have to get that. Like it doesn't have to be that. Plus that dog can actually be corrected, and usually it's not bad enough. They can learn that humans can correct too, which is something dogs have to learn, and that goes away. But the thing is how did you miss that in your behavioral analysis? I can tell you why, because you put no pressure on the dog. You take the dogs that are aggressive just on sight and you put them down, which some of them might not even have to be put down because it could just be a big bluff and it's all stranger danger, and they never get past that. They won't know because they don't put money. The government won't put money into hiring somebody like myself to work for them, because I won't work for them for free, because all their stuff is all the ideology there. It's been polluted. It's not even in reality. You're not even existing in nature. I don't know where they are in their heads. So I do know where they are, and it's whatever. It is what it is. But these dogs are being placed, and they're being placed, and then they become dangerous real fast. And then they end up here. And I just would love to be able to stop them from ending up in houses to begin with and have them come to a place like this first or something, but the government won't put money in it. They won't do it. And so it's a free-for-all right now, and not working. It's not working. So
Yeah.
anyway, I know it's a tangent. I'll try not to pay you for that or charge you for that one. I can be a tangent guy. I should warn you.
No, I like it because the discussion's still like it's still
It's relevant.
for a different exactly, it is relevant. So
It is. It's all a big problem right now, and if you have a dog, it's good to be educated on it. You know, you have a dog that's a product of that. You know, and you see just how like wow.
Yeah, and I honestly think a lot of like that resource guarding he had it was so much worse until I like worked him through a good chunk of it where I was like, I'm gonna take your toy and you cannot bite me.
Nice work.
Or like try. But obviously there's, degrees of that I couldn't quite address right now.
Yes.
But that was a product of his foster home. He was fostered with 5 other dogs with 0 structure. So like he actually,
I can't even talk about this right now. It literally, I need to work on myself. Yes, it triggers me. It does. Because the real reason is because whenever you communicate with somebody who works in this and you want to help, they're so far gone as far as how to help the dog. They don't believe in punishment most of the time, and it's really I don't know how that happened in the shelters or when it happened, but they are so about rescuing the dog, they deprive it from life lessons. So, and it's where it learns coping skills and how to deal with anxiety and learns all this stuff, that they're doing the worst damage of all by withholding. Like imagine like keeping a child from ever learning any experiences. Like you've never been burnt by a stove, you never got a sliver, you've never been bullied or anything. You're gonna be fucking weird when you're an adult. You're gonna be weird and you're gonna be anxious and you're not gonna sure what to do. Now let's put it this way. You're a dog and you live with humans in a human world, not even in the wild. So now it's even more weird. And so dogs are just messed up here, man. So I hear you there. Hopefully, eventually enough of us can realize that there is a problem and make a difference eventually. But right now we're so busy just helping the dogs that are coming to us. It doesn't stop. If you started this for a career and you learned some skills to get like a dog through whatever the stuff that we see, the basic stuff, it is unreal the need out there. You can't keep up. We have to regulate how many dogs we take in. Otherwise, it would be great. It would just be insane. Everybody is struggling. Everybody's struggling. I don't know one person that's not, and if they're not, they put the work in or they got lucky with that dog. Because sometimes you get those dogs that are they're just born easy. They're rare, but they're out there. So yeah, I think, man, there's some need. Where are you located?
Well, right now in New Hampshire, in like very rural New Hampshire.
Really?
Yes, I moved up here because it's super isolated, and I was like honestly sick of the DC area. But I'm like kicking myself I didn't find you guys sooner before I moved out of there.
Well, I tell you what, the rural side is the place to do this stuff, though. If you're somewhere where you're not in the city, it's really not. I mean, I like living out in the country. But I was talking about for training. I mean, obviously, yes, I feel confident that I could help your fella, but I feel like helping you would be better because I have a feeling that, you're more interested than the average person.
Yeah, well, meaning like from the perspective of like having some of these lessons when I first got him versus like 6 months later.
Gotcha.
Obviously, like he had structure when I got him, but it wasn't to the level that he probably needed. But I'm learning now, and at least it's not like too far gone. But
yeah, but you also got a dog that already had baggage. So the level of structure you were gonna have to do, like if you talked to me the day you got him, it was gonna be intense.
Yeah.
Who knows how to do that? It's like what they tell you, they lied about the age. First thing I noticed, they lied about the age. That's normal. Lying about the age, like why? All this stuff. And
The
then
rescue didn't do that. It was whoever surrendered him.
Oh, it was the fosters?
Like, he's 4. And I was like, they probably were like, that'll get him adopted faster.
Yes, that's the kind of stuff that happens, and they lie about breed and everything. They lied about, like, if it's a pity, clearly a pity mix, they're like, it's a lab mix. I'm like, no, that's a pit bull.
No.
So, do your thing. Yeah, no problem. The life of a leader.
Great. You see the face in there?
Oh, I can. Well, hello there. It's been good since you're on here. You got your shit under control in the house. Your dog, I haven't even heard it. So
Yeah. He's really good in the house. It's the outside boundaries that we need to work on.
good,
So.
good. And he'll teach you how to be patient, more patient, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then the day that you see big success or success that you're proud of is when you'll know if it, you know, it's worth it. It's worth it. So keep me updated. I mean, Julie, if you just need anything in between that isn't a Skype, that doesn't require a Skype, you know, if you have any questions, you can message her and she'll ask me because we did this. And she'll also give you this video here. But if you feel like you're continuing to struggle, well, let me know and we can dig a little deeper and
Sure.
figure
I'll do my
something out.
homework first. Like I'll watch some of that Cesar Millan stuff. I used to watch that all the time when I was a kid.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I would. Yeah, I'll definitely keep you updated because this stuff is really interesting to me, and I would like to have Monty make his own breakthrough as well. So.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice. I think you can do it. I really do. You're dedicated, and that's all it takes. Yeah, you got
I
it.
have a lot of time in a job that doesn't really keep me too busy, so
See?
I have the time.
And what better skill? And now, at the same time, you're gonna be developing a rare skill. So,
Exactly.
wow.
So yeah, thank you so much for talking to me today. This is awesome.
Yeah.
As like the conversation I've seen with you is so. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Hey, this one was really fun. I'm not kidding. It was
I'm
good.
glad. Yeah, and I'll keep in touch with you all. And I'll let you know if I have any struggles or whatnot. Maybe as I said, I'm planning to move in the next like 6 months, which is why I really want to get in a good place with Monty because I have the time to devote to it. But grad school's coming up in my future, and so when we move, maybe I'll make a little trip down to Frederick.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool for me too. All right.
Well,
I won't keep you, but Happy New Year.
All right, Danny. Thank you.
Thank you for all your help.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.
I did good. Did I do good?
Mhm.